can just start and as and when people can join in. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I am with Alicia, and thank you for choosing to spend your time with us this morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you're tuning in from. And Alicia is a coach, a storyteller, and also an author of a beautiful book. And Alicia, I allow you to, just share a little bit about yourself, your background, so that we learn a little bit more about you before we get into the discussion.
Okay. Just really quick, I didn't really have anything prepared, but I came to Substack last fall, and I've been encouraged by a lot of people to write a book and write my story. And I'm like, I've never really considered myself a writer, and I'm like, how do I even begin to do this? So I'm found out about Substack, and I'm like, I'm just going to start sharing some of my stories and see what happens. And as I shared and people started responding and I was getting feedback, I was just like, wow, this is really cool. People are relating to my stories and they do mean something. And it cracked me open. Like all of a sudden, I became a writer and I loved it. And I've always journaled, but to like share it with an audience was new for me, and it just continued to open something up in me to open and share. And just the love that I have found on Substack, just this space, this community, these people that are like somewhere where I get to share, somewhere where I get to be so bold and honest and vulnerable and all the things, and then people just gravitate to it. Like I want to be a part of that, where we're creating a world for that. And so then I did publish my book in February, so I must say, yay. So this is my book, Courageous Compassion, which really I just say my passion is compassion, because it was having to really learn compassion for myself and how to love and accept all the parts of me, but really find compassion for everybody that was a part of my life. Everything that felt wrong or bad, or these people that did that, I really had to go on a path to find compassion for them and their stories and who they were and how it all unfolded to my fantastic life. And so I just want to share how I've discovered compassion and how important I think it is in our world. And so that's the whole purpose of my book and my whole purpose of being here, and a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think a lot of us who's connected here can relate to you completely on being the part of how this community really has become such an important, integral part of our journeys and healing. Because until even for me, until I joined Substack and started connecting with people and started opening about my wounds, I never really understood the true essence of being vulnerable, being open, and how that actually connected so many of us together,
Yeah.
just like being a part of a single thread.
Yeah.
And the acceptance from the community is incredible. I think there is nowhere else, especially on the internet, where you feel this kind of connection with the people.
Yeah.
So, yes, you have me on that. And I think most of us on live is going to agree to that. And coming to compassion, Alicia, what compassion looks for you? What does compassion actually feel? Or when we say that holding compassion for the self, holding compassion for all our parts, what does it really mean?
Yeah. So I think about this a lot because it's just kind of my thing. And for me, compassion is really about stepping in and owning your personal responsibility. And so to have compassion doesn't just mean I can listen and I can understand and I can empathize. It means I'm really owning all parts of myself. I'm taking responsibility for all of me. I'm being as honest as I can, seeing everything that's happening as this mirror that I need to reflect on to really show up and be my best self. And in that, finding those voices of I need to be my own best friend. I need to be my own parent. You know, we really have to reparent ourselves So when we get these triggers and these things that upset us, whether if it's through partners or somebody says something to us online, is to really say, this is an invitation for me to reparent that part of me that's triggered. It's no one else's responsibility to reparent me. It's my responsibility to say, this is where I get to now hold myself as my best friend, as my parent, as whatever it is I need to honor wherever I am at. And to me, that is compassion.
That is indeed very true. And I think a lot of us, whatever part of our life, we realize that having accountability and responsibility for our own behavior, for our own actions, whether the hurt, wherever it stays, it does not pass on. That is our responsibility and no one else's. So it's our accountability to heal those parts, to understand those wounds, and tend to those places within us. And when we talk about that, I was reading about the article, the core essence of our talk today, um, having living an intuitive life, morning versus having a very rigid structure. So I read a line in your post where it said that if it is true that if we only have now, and it is now that whatever decisions and choices we are taking, it creates our reality, then it becomes absolutely important to set an intentional tone to the day. Would you like to expand that on a little bit, that why starting our day with an intention, with compassion, with listening to yourself is so important?
Yes. And so when I was, what I feel is kind of like this ending part of my kind of healing journey, and not that it ever ends, but this part that was like, wow, I've really fully embodied all these things I've learned about myself and really come to know myself. And I was actually seeing a psychiatrist at the time, because when our world's falling apart and we're rebuilding ourselves, like, you literally kind of go crazy. So I'm seeing a
Mm,
psychiatrist, and she says, you do have ADHD, you definitely have CPTSD, and I'd like to test you and see what other spectrums. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be tested. I know who I am. I know these aspects of myself, and they don't need labels. They don't need these understandings. I'm not a medication girl. I'm not going to go on the medications. I will do my research. I trust my body will tell me. And that's when I was like, okay, then every moment, Alicia, knowing that, like, this is just how the brain works and how you work and how you learn how to deal and adjust in life. So, with that, you really need to set up your day to be everything you can possibly be in a day. And so that's checking in with myself. So to me, a morning routine is vital. Like, I wake up, I immediately do a meditation because I know I just need that. And it helps me reflect on my dream and, like, okay, I meditated, and whatever that looks like. You're still laying in your bed, you're twiddling your thumbs, you are maybe even jumping up and down, like whatever meditation is to you. I think sometimes everybody thinks I have to be sitting and humming to be meditating, and that's just not true. We meditate in everything we do when we are consciously saying, I'm deciding to do this. So I always begin my day with the meditation and just kind of reflect and notice where I am, what's going on today, and, like, okay, I'm going to find acceptance for this. I wrote a small little post even this afternoon. I just woke up, like, offish and weird, and I'm like, okay, so we're one of these moods today, and I just couldn't focus for anything. And I'm like, but I find that space to say it's okay, I don't need to force it. But having that routine where I check in with myself and say, okay, we're setting up our day, and I'm like, and today's a day of blah, and let's see what we get done. And some
yeah.
days I wake up and I'm like, yes, conquer the world. And some days maybe I wake up and say, forget it, I'm going back to bed. But that check in, that to me is the morning routine. It's, do you allow yourself enough time and space to check in with yourself? And so that's the first step of it. Just I'll pause and let you kind of reflect on that for a minute.
Yeah. I think I'll just take a pause here since there is an echo. I'll see if I
Oh,
can fix it.
okay. I don't hear the echo, but you do.
Yeah, I can also hear my own echo.
Oh
Is it
no.
better now? Yeah, is it better?
I don't
I
hear an
think,
echo. I haven't, but I hear kind of a buzz.
yeah, I did because I think I was wearing my earphones and there was some sort of echo to me too, but I thought that that might be internet or some sort of connection. I'm not sure if it's better now, but okay, I'll go with it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll roll with it.
Yeah. Coming back to what you shared about taking that time to start the day while tuning in, listening, what you need today. I think for me, for a very long period of time, and I've also shared this in my previous life, that I was stuck into this rut of, having a very strict routine that, okay, I have to do this, only then I'm doing it right. And it kind of felt counterintuitive, counterproductive. It wasn't really helping me much because it was kind of, subconsciously telling myself that it's kind of a checklist for me to feel better. And slowly and eventually, as I matured in my journey, healed better, I started really tuning in, understanding that it does not always have to be those 15 minutes of meditation. Meditation can also look different on different days. And it can also sometimes, like you mentioned, it can also mean being under the cover for 5 minutes or 10 minutes extra or getting that extra sleep. And I like to highlight this part, especially for us as women. Tuning in and listening to our body is so important and crucial since we don't operate as the same way as men and we live on two different cycles, circadian and infradian, So we cannot literally operate the way men do or on a 24-hour cycle. So it is absolutely important to understand that what cycle of or season are we in and how does the body feel in that particular cycle, and tuning in and allowing yourself to take that space.
And so to me, that first, like, and it's morning routine, but it's just like I take the time and space to calm my mind and to check in where I am mentally. And then, like you said, then I can kind of check in, and then I get up and I move my body in some way, swing my arms, lift my arms, and like, how are you feeling, body? I kind of checked in with the mind. Now, what's going on with you, body, and what do you need? And I give myself a whole hour before I have to like be on work or do anything to really give myself this time. And like you said, some mornings that hour is I just stay my butt in bed. like and I'm just laying there, and so but my phone is always in airplane mode. So I at night I put my phone in airplane mode and I don't come off airplane mode till I've given myself that time. And some mornings it might just be 30 minutes, but I always have at least that time period I need where my phone is in airplane mode and I'm checking in. So I check in mentally, and for me, meditation works well. Then I move my body and I start to check in with the body and I do some movements. How are you feeling, body? What do you need? Do we need some water this morning? Do I need coffee right away or can I wait? I know it's better for me if I can wait. But some mornings I'm like, nope, I'm not waiting. but the goal is at least an hour. Let my body and hormones and everything kind of check in with themselves before I start putting something else on it. And so then I move the body, and with that comes the emotions. I mean, it will naturally just come. So it's really about giving ourselves that time and space of like honoring ourselves. This is my day ahead of me, and I'm doing this to say I am setting up my day. And if there's ever a day I don't have time to do this, say I really just kept hitting the snooze until 2 minutes before I had to be on, like it's been so long since that's happened because it's just so valuable to me to say, take the time to check in. And this is how I start a day that says, I'm worthy of finding that time
Mm.
for myself. I am worthy of setting up my mental, my physical, my emotional, my spiritual, whatever it is to you. But and then it just becomes a habit. Next thing you know, it's not about a routine or a regimen. It's just, it's a joy. It's what
Yeah.
I joyfully do for myself.
I love that how you put that together, that I'm worthy of this time. I'm worthy to, show up for myself the way I want to show up because I think it's so difficult for so many of us. Especially, I'm not a mother, but I can only imagine for a mother to really get out and, take care of their kids, take care of the family, and working women, they have work to go to, and there are a lot of things that people in general juggle with. And in that, it's a very radical move to just simply stop everything before the world starts moving to say that I am worthy of this time. This is how I'm going to show up. This is how I'm going to listen to myself today. And I think this is what I need.
Oh my gosh, I wish I knew about this when I was mothering. So I gave birth to four children. I've raised all my children. My youngest is almost 20. And like, I just could have been, I'm just like, wow, if I would have known this as a mother, and obviously as a
Mm.
mother, I put in every day, but to have known that I had to take that time for
Yeah.
myself, like, would have been remarkable. So hopefully anybody who is mothering can start to say, how do I go to bed 15 minutes earlier, to wake up 15 minutes earlier, to have that 15 minutes for myself, because it's this worthy check-in that I
Mm.
create time for myself.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think the once you start showing up for yourself in that more compassionate manner, I think you feel more confident and more calmer to show up in all the roles that you are moving across or juggling, throughout your day. You feel so grounded, and I think you feel much more in control. I don't like the word control, but I just use that for the simplicity and lack of vocabulary of your own self, how you respond to circumstances and the challenges that life throws at you on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I think another thing it builds is, we said worthy, and that confidence, and kind of like, I have the power to decide. It gives us this empowerment of, I'm
Yes.
deciding. But it also, for me, has built a tremendous trust for myself, because this time is so important to me, and showing up for that. Like, there's this trust that, like, myself is just like, thank you for
Yes.
trusting me every morning to be this guide, to show
Yes.
you how you need to show up today. So I think that's another big word that comes with that, is trust. You build trust with yourself.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Another thing to that, along with trust, I read that you also like to say affirmations to yourself that keeps changing monthly. And one of those was, I love you. Saying I love you to yourself is so difficult and painful to so many of us. Truly, it is. We say I love you to so many of our close ones, our partners, our parents, and our kids. But the moment we say, I love you to us, to the self, there's a deep ache, there's a pain. You feel so uncomfortable that, oh, I love myself. You have
Yeah.
that pause.
Yeah. And that's kind of my fourth step. So I wake up, I meditate, I move the body, that brings up the emotions. I kind of check in with all of that. And I am someone who tracks my cycle. I can tell you every day where I'm at in my cycle, and I can be like, oh, everything feels good. And I'm like, oh, you're day 24. Of course it feels, you're in deep luteal. Like, I always know where I am in my cycle, and having to relearn that, because my cycle is doing a lot of things as I'm 51, and I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do when I don't have my cycle? So I'm learning that, because some months I haven't. And so that's been interesting too. But so the fourth step is I walk in the mirror, and this is something regimen that I make sure I do every day. And I look in the mirror, and I say I love you to myself. And I just cannot even start a day without doing that, because I'm like, if I'm not going to love me, how can I expect anyone else to? So it's like this open invitation to invite love into my life because I'm beginning it here. And if I have this love and confidence and assurance in myself, then it's so much easier to look at other people and just love them, because I've already accepted these parts of myself and I can realize that everybody has their own parts too. So to me, that is difficult as it is to say I love you to ourselves, you're
Yes.
really doing the entire world a favor by genuinely being able to look at yourself in the eyes and say I love you. So do it for the sake of all humanity. That's
Yeah.
how strongly I feel about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree to you on that, as cliche as it may sound, but I don't see it any other way, because to be very honest, saying that to myself has come such a hard way, seeking external validation and through people pleasing, to accept me and love me. And I only to realize that the only validation and acceptance I truly needed was mine. And when I say that to myself, that I accept all parts of me, I love you for taking care of myself, for showing up so bravely, and just being there for my needs, also allows me to show up so authentically and so warmly for others in my life, because that's how I've also showed up for myself.
And talk about reparenting yourself. That's exactly
Yes,
what you're doing. Is you are just
yes,
reparenting yourself, you know?
yes,
And and to the love and innocence of our parents that just didn't know, I didn't know as a mother to do that, but I love that. Like I wish I had that, a mother that had done that every day. So if I wish I had that, if I wish I would have done that, then let's just start doing it now, because again, that's all we really have.
yeah,
I mean, how warm and inviting and wonderful does that feel to just, and some days literally like hugging myself and feeling that and like really give myself that embrace that I need.
yeah,
So, again, you can show up so much better in the world when you feel loved. We
yeah.
just do.
Yeah, that's very true. And even if you're not a parent, even if you're not married, you might have people around you, and the way you show up for yourself, you start your day, it does impact and it does send a ripple to other people, every person that you meet throughout your day, because it shows with your actions, it shows how you talk to them, and looking at you, you're also sending out that message to others that loving yourself is the first thing, and that's your first responsibility, to be very honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, as you said that, I just thought, because you're like, not everybody's a parent or wants to be or will have children, but you're not a human on this earth unless you have parents. Like,
Yes.
there's not a single human on this earth
Yes.
that does not have parents. Like, that's how we get here. So we can all relate to that parent by, I had parents, and whether if they showed up or not, I am now here and ready to parent myself in all those ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Alicia, how can one, if they want to start or wherever they are on their journey right now, healing themselves, how can they compassionately tune in to their needs while also allowing a structure that supports them and not works against them?
Okay, so number one is I would say how you begin your day. The first 5 minutes of your day is going to make and break your day. So, creating a habit, and for me, the biggest one was putting my phone in airplane mode.
Mm,
That the first 5 minutes, however long in the morning, is me with me. It's
mm,
me checking in with me before I see anything else from the outside world. This is just me and my little world. So, if anything, just that practice of, maybe your phone is even not in your room. I do have my phone in my room because I love going to sleep with meditation music. So, I haven't, but it's in airplane mode. Um, so, downloaded. So I would say number one is how can you capture that time? That the first few minutes of your day, time, however long it is absolutely no external interference.
Mm.
It's only you and yourself. And then how can I give myself that moment, whether if it's only 5 minutes you have, 2 minutes, or if you can make a whole hour happen one day. And this is built. I didn't do this, I would say it took about 2 years of starting this before it became a whole hour of time. Um, and so number one is nothing external until I have check in with myself. Did I check in mentally, physically, emotionally, and have I given myself some love? So that would be the number one. Can I just start to make that happen?
I love how you have covered all parts of the self, starting from the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual in the way for loving ourselves. I think it's kind of a flexible framework. If you see, look at it, there can be a lot of different practices one can have that works for them. Not necessarily everyone can resonate or are in tune with one particular practice, but this framework can allow them to tune in mentally. They can have their own way. Say, for example, journaling or just quickly writing gratitude thoughts once they're waking up, they've woken up, or just having simple gratitude towards life, then checking in with the body and then the emotions, and finally coming down to showing up today more authentically, more compassionately, but more lovingly towards the self. I really love the way you have put it together so simplistically, but so holistically.
And it's really finding what works for you. Like I wanted to be that person that right when I woke up, I journaled, I wrote the, God, what is it from the artist wave that
The
I
morning
can't.
pages.
Yes, the morning pages.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be that person, but I'm not. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
My body wants just this sweet check in. It wants some
Yeah.
movement. It wants to look in the mirror. And so I've never been able to journal first. I've tried, I've kept the journal on my
Yeah.
bed. I tried it. But anytime you're feeling like I should do this, don't do it. If there's a should in front of it,
I would
don't
agree.
do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find your way, your rhythm. And for others, that's the absolute answer. It's right when I
Yeah.
wake up, my journal's on my other pillow next to me, and I just start writing it out. And that's a
Mhm.
good way too. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I used to do that, but I intuitively and naturally started disconnecting with that practice. It helped me for around 2 years, to be very honest.
yeah,
Journaling helped me a lot, but I started disconnecting it with time. And I think it is also okay if the practices evolve with you. So you don't have to be very rigid that, okay, I have been doing this for so long and I'm not sure why it isn't working right now. But I think as you grow your practices and the way you connect with yourself also evolves a lot more.
yeah. Like the seasons. We go through seasons. I go
Yes.
through seasons of my life that this worked really well. I go through seasons that this just doesn't, it feels ick to me. If it's ick, don't do it. Like
Yes.
you're deciding, you get to be the parent, you get
Yeah.
to decide what
Yeah.
needs to happen and what doesn't happen here.
Yeah. I love that. Just hi to everyone who just joined in or has been listening to us. And before we move forward towards the last bit, I think there was a question in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It's a question for you, Alicia. Did Substack facilitate your publishing a book in any way? Was it just inspiration to write or something more?
Um, Let me think on that. So Substack definitely inspired me because I didn't know I was a writer. And so I'm like, I'm going to throw my thoughts on paper and send this out. And if it gets responses, then it helped build my confidence of you are whatever you want to become, period, end of
Mm.
story. So there's no such thing as I'm not a writer, I'm not this, I'm not that. You are what you decide you want to become. And so by hearing other people's feedback to my things that I did right, and it gave me that confidence of like, oh, I can write something and it does matter to people. And so it definitely built my confidence in myself. And then I just decided. I mean, it was just crazy. I'm like, I have started this story for I can't even tell you how many times over 5 years. Like, started it, got through chapter 2, and just couldn't. And the moment I built that confidence from hearing so much feedback on Substack, I dedicated myself to it. And in 3 months, I mean, my book is only like 176 pages or something, but in 3 months, it was written because the story was in me. I just needed this like crack of like, you have permission, and Substack became that for me. Substack kind of gave me the permission of like, you can do this. And I did it. And I luckily had a friend here who was starting a publishing company, and she was on Substack. She's the one that pointed me to Substack.
Mm.
And so she was like, I'll kind of guide you through this and help with some of the things. And so I feel really lucky to have that. And now I'm like, if anybody's thinking about it, you need some guidelines, reach out to me. I think everybody should write their story. And so one day when I have time, like, and I do want to create a community through Substack and more offerings. I'm finishing up my degree right now, but that will come. And writing memoirs together as a group is definitely a huge dream of mine because this gave me permission, and I want to give everybody permission.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's a question from me. Alicia, what was the biggest roadblock, or you think that internal battle that stopped you from starting to write your book or complete your book? What was that one thing that you felt like absolutely difficult to get through?
The fear of how I would tell my story as authentically and honestly as I wanted to, and who it would upset, who it would offend,
Mm,
who, would it have an impact? All these fears that come up, like, why am I doing this? Is it going to, and it didn't need to have an impact.
mm,
Um, but, I wanted to write it and publish it in the hopes that it fueled other people, that it gave others the inspiration to say, hey, I have been living with shame and guilt and all these things. And by reading this thing, like, I need to open myself up to compassion. I mean, that's really everything I write. And somebody said that to me. It's like everything you write, it always seems to be an invitation. And I'm like, it's absolutely what I'm all about. Is it's just simply an invitation of, do you need this? If not, great, I'm not your person. But if you need it, then let's go further. Let's go further. So it's just simply an invitation. So
and
yeah,
yeah,
the fears.
what helped you get over that fear that was stopping you from writing it? Like, how did you overcome that?
So as I was writing the book and I would want to tell a story, is I just picked up the phone and started calling people. And I'm like, hey, I'm writing my story and I'm talking about you in the story. And some people like refer to like my old boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, I just call him the hero in the book. The archetype of the hero. And so I called and said, and so what helped me get over the fear was to humble myself enough to call people. There were people that I hadn't talked to in 3, 5 years. And I just called out the blue and was like, hey, do I have your permission to write about this? Is it okay that I write about this? Hey, I'm going to say this because I've really found that, like, I needed to say I'm sorry to you. And I cried more during that time of putting together this book than ever, but it was such a huge release. I mean, it was just, and you get over one little fear and you have one little conversation and you're like, hey, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And that was a big part of my compassion journey, I would say, is so I had an affair on my husband. I was married 17 years. I had an affair, and then all these other things happened. It's all over in the book. Basically, an arrest happens. It was a disaster. And I left my husband a year after the big arrest. That was my big, what I call the tower moment that really caused it
Mm,
all to come crashing down. Um, and I left my husband, but he still never knew about the affair. Like, it was still
mm,
always on lockdown. And so 2 years later, I went to him. He was remarried. And I was like, I need to tell you about everything that was happening during that time. And I had to sit face to face with him and tell him all of this face to face. But to me, that was the biggest breakthrough of my like compassion, is I just have to hold myself through no matter what he wants to say to me, no matter what he does. And he wasn't a violent person, so I wasn't afraid of that. But yeah, that compassion of being able to say, I need to step into my responsibility and hold myself through this and sit here and listen to him say whatever he needs to say, because I deeply need to apologize to him, which then opened up apologizing to each one of my children and taking responsibility for that, but sincerely being able to say whatever you need to say to me. So, and to me, that's compassion. That is the living, breathing essence of compassion.
I think I'm gonna take a moment to just, take in what you shared, because having that sort of an awareness and acceptance about your own story is one thing. Having that face-to-face conversation with the people is another thing. And then sharing it with all is a whole different thing. And Alicia, you're so brave, truly. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing it so compassionately, so warmly with us. It takes a lot of courage to come out like this and share, all just as it is. No sugarcoating, no hiding. This is who I am, and I take responsibility for what I've done, and I feel sorry about it. However, I can't change anything,
No.
but I can work with what I have today.
But I can take responsibility and I
Yes.
can apologize where I need to apologize. And I can sit here and let you say whatever you need to say to me, because I have so much compassion for myself and what I've been through that no matter what you say, I'll just say thank you for sharing your perspective. And this is, and I am who I am, and I love me enough to sit here with this. And that is why the book is called Courageous Compassion, because that's where I want every human to be. I have a friend that always says, Alicia, you can't be everything to everyone. And I'm like, and it's not that I want to be everything for everyone because I need acceptance or validation, but because my love that I have found for myself is so full that I just want everybody to feel it. And it, to me, it comes by that courageous compassion of truly loving and accepting every part of yourself.
And I don't see any other way to live so fully and wholly other than this, that accepting all the parts and moving on from there, taking responsibility and making that intention to make those changes for yourself and for others.
Yeah. Yeah, because nothing's worse than somebody that says, I'm sorry, and then you see these actions repeat. And saying that,
Yes.
even, we're human, and I can say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and like work on those things, and then I may still falter and do it again. Dang it, but can I find that grace in even that for myself? But when you I think when you really own that responsibility and find the compassion and understand my part of me that
Mm.
was looking for love and desperation and acceptance so bad that I couldn't get it from a very loving husband who was loving me, who was an incredible husband. But I couldn't find it. I could never fully accept that from him because I didn't have it for myself.
Mm.
So if you really want that, like acceptance and love in your life, it has to come from you. You will search it a million other places and in a million other ways and hurt a million other people searching for it until we truly learn to embody it for ourselves.
Yes. Yes. I think I think I'm gonna rewatch this even after we are done because it is so whole, and I feel parts of me being integrated, being seen, and it's rarely that when you talk to people, they can see through you and hold that space. And that only happens when you hold that space for yourself. That's where we started with, our conversation, starting the day by holding that space for you.
Yes. Yep. And I've held a lot of space for myself. I've
Yes.
had to. I had just, so I mentioned there was an arrest, there was the affair, raising four children, and it all came from just like holding up the masks in life. Like I was the wife, I was the mother of full children, I was volunteering at the kids' school, I was a Weight Watcher coach in the community. I was all these things, and I had so much pain inside that I started using cocaine to get through it all. And nobody knew in my life, nobody. And and so the arrest came because I was giving my cocaine dealer a ride, and he dropped off the drugs, and I pulled away, and five cop cars surrounded my car. And the next thing I know, I'm being handcuffed. And this is from a woman that 3 years before this was a temple going, like very religious. I was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints. Like, but even that, it wasn't, I was holding up all these things that society told me I had to be, and none of it was true to my essence. And so cocaine helped me get through that until it didn't. And that's, I feel life always will give us this, like, here is your breaking moment.
Mm,
Here is your moment to really look at yourself in the mirror. And to me, and if you're lucky, you have something that cracks you open so deeply that you have no other choice but to say, I have to look at this woman in the mirror and find love for her. And it
mm,
took me, I mean, so when I left the marriage, then I was standing in a yoga class, and brand new at yoga, but I was in this lost state. And I looked at the woman in the mirror and was like, I don't even know who that woman is looking back at me. Like,
mm.
people would say self love. I'm like, I don't even know who that is. How am I supposed to love that person? And so, since that day, it has been 13 years now that I have been on a journey to get to this place of love and compassion. And it comes through a dedication for yourself, showing up and messing up, and then just continuing to show up. And so for me, now the practice is I show up for myself every single morning, and I show myself I'm worthy enough to show up. And how are you, Alicia? What is going on with you?
I love that. I love that. I love every bit of what you've shared. It feels like an exhale, a very relieving exhale to listen to. And I think we are good. I'd just like to ask everyone here if you have any questions, any comments that you'd like to share with us. Feel free to drop down. And Alicia, if you have anything else to share with all of us, because I think what you've shared has already been so incredible for, I think, everyone here. Even if we can take away that 10% or 1% and start living it every day, I think that is um, going to help us show up for ourselves so authentically and so compassionately.
So, and my last words of that would just be that you are worthy of your time. And so find that time for yourself to know your worth before you begin your day.
Yeah. I think we just have one comment from Mike. He says, I'll speak out loud. Unconditional love for yourself. You don't need to look elsewhere for validation. Validation is an inside job.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
And we free up the whole world when we learn to give that to ourselves. We take everybody else off the hook. Hey, world, I don't need your validation and acceptance. I
Yes.
have it.
Yes.
But and it just oozes from me. And so yes, so fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much. I truly deeply appreciate your energy and time at this hour of your day. I know you're going to be off to bed, and I hope you have a good evening post this. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you,
Oh, thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.